station, where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for supporting our channel by watching and listening.
On the web at mbradio.com.
As veterans, we begin new lives when we leave our military service. What is faith? How do we incorporate faith in service and after? What resources are available? Who do we talk with about faith? These are some of the many questions that one may ponder in searching for answers to the
Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I'm your host, Eva Fulton. In this show, we explore the incredible journeys of resilience, healing, and transformation. In each episode, we will sit down with individuals who have faced unimaginable struggles and turned their pain into power, heartbreak into hope, and their challenges into meaningful change and finding new purpose in life. Through candid conversations and inspiring stories, we will uncover how pain, whether emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual, can be the catalyst for profound growth and a deeper sense of purpose. So if you are looking for motivation, insight, and real stories of triumph over adversity, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey from pain to purpose. Let's give veterans a voice through military broadcast talk. Hey, welcome everybody. Today is Saturday. What is it? May 9th. Don't forget, Mother's Day is tomorrow. The year of our Lord 2026. So, don't forget your moms, everybody. Hopefully my mic is working. Something just not sounding right. But hey, I don't have any big news for anything. I submitted my stuff to the IRB, so just playing the waiting game on that. And today I'm probably sounding a little glitchy, if you will. I've been out there in the RV cleaning it. So this was Dad's RV, and I'm spiffing it up, putting the good Eva touch on it. I used to own a cleaning company once upon a time. Yes, I have even cleaned houses, because you got to do what you got to do, right? And I'm not ever ashamed that I've had to do some menial tasks to feed my kids. And I think in some ways maybe this is kind of apropos, having Darrell on, and we had talked Monday about what are we going to talk about. And it hit me before when I was taking my picture, hey, join us on the show today, that we need to talk about spiritual pain. It is one of the four, I always reference the four legs of a chair: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual pain. And I don't think we talk enough about spiritual pain. And it really segues into what we do on the Revivalist radio show on Mondays. So maybe that's kind of a God thing on why he winked at us and said, remember, you're Revivalists. And here we are, on the From Pain to Purpose show, because I think in many ways there are people struggling with how we get out of the military, and I've been doing a lot more research about moral injury. That is what the Revivalist show is based upon, but it's very parallel to, I think, what we're doing with the From Pain to Purpose radio show. And how do we, and I'm sure Darrell and I have both gone through some spiritual low points and navigate, right? Even looking at the scene behind me and going through war, there's some spiritual pain there. After war, there is spiritual pain. But guess what? Even before we joined the military, and I've talked with you guys before about some of my experiences, that we have spiritual pain even before we joined the military. So I'm going to use that as the preface and bring Chaplain Darrell Hartley on and get what his take is and what his experiences have been. So,
The interview of the week
Well,
is
good
brought to
afternoon,
you by
everyone.
Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
there you go.
To this show because I was at
You
I
were
was at
ready.
an
You were
event
ready.
trying to yeah I was and then the speaker they gave me 7 minutes or so to talk about peer support, but they gave this other person indefinite amounts of time, and I don't like to get up and leave when somebody's speaking, so I just stood there, and after she was done and there was applause, I walked out and then ate lunch or something, but I couldn't stay because I needed to get to the show to
Right.
make sure that I'm there.
Well, thank you. We
Because I
reach
would
a
hope
wider
somebody would do the
audience
same
here.
or have the same consideration for me. So
Exactly. Exactly. So I hope you like the topic I chose, spiritual pain.
I told you the other day, you can ask me anything. If if there are
Okay.
investigators in the room, I don't care. Nobody can ask me anything that hasn't been asked before. So it's
Well,
okay.
it's really between
Pain
you and
though,
God
Eva.
anyways. It's
I
not
wrote this thing out.
sorry, we have a lag somewhere.
Yeah, it is. But you want to know. And you're like, who is this guy? Yeah, who is this guy that Eve was with? Every Monday. What about him? What?
Yeah.
I'm easily found if that's what you want. But we talk about things that normally people don't want to talk about because it is painful.
So tell us
But the only way you
about
can navigate through pain is you have to address it.
exactly. Exactly. So do you have well, let's start at the very beginning with how did you come to know God? How did he come into your life? That's I like that one because it gives people foundation on what how you started your
Okay.
experience and relationship with God.
Okay. Can you hear me all right? Because
I can
you're
now.
coming in pieces.
Yeah, you have been too. I don't know if it's me or you.
I'm I'm fine. So how I came to know who God is I know he always had a covering and a call on my life. I just didn't know what that meant. Adults and such tell me different in the church or pick up anything scriptural or spiritual and read it. It was all on 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 the fly, on the job training. My brother, who's 11 years younger than me, he had the call. And I may have shared this with you before, but I'll tell somebody else. He was 3 years of age, in the Bible bigger than him, walking around, and he could tell you what was going on spiritually and scripturally. He could sing, he could give the word. He was three, grace,
Wow.
and eventually navigated away from God's calling. And
Oh,
at some point, it fell on me. I am the only living child of the union of my mother and my stepfather. I have other siblings, but Diane and Jimmy are no longer with us. My mother's gone. My biological father's gone. My stepfather's gone. So it's just me. And I've shared with you here recently about, I'm dead on it because I know the responsibility of having those particular doctorates and going into the world and assisting people. So when you ask me about, how did I come to know God and how God has the blessings and such, it's because, Eva, it wasn't because I didn't reject the call. It was because I was understanding intentionally what it was going to be and find out what your role actually is, but still can go out into the world and fail because when you become your own God outside of the God, repentance to pay for that. All long, there was still consequences to the sin. But once God restores you, nothing better than the flavor of the week, dear.
Right. So it sounds like your brother's relationship with God had some influence on your own relationship where you
People
kind of
ask me this darkest secret. When you fail, Eva, from a spiritual standpoint, because when I say when you fail, it's because you already know the truth. You should not be in a position where you fail. But you failed because you lean to your own understanding. Spiritual pain is the ache of the soul. It's not a dimension of suffering that can intensify emotional and physical distress. That's what happens to a person who becomes their own God. It's the stress on a level that you can communicate it, but other people are still looking at you because you're supposed to be the guy.
and I think it's important that you say
You're
that.
supposed to have the answers. You're supposed. People forget.
We're human too. Yeah, we're human too.
Yes.
I've had someone say, that they put me on a pedestal, and I'm like, hey, I didn't put me on the pedestal. If you chose to do that, then I fail. Then it looks like I fall harder because you put me on that pedestal. That's not fair to me. But I have always been one of those people. Hey, I am not perfect, and I keep my feet firmly planted
No.
on the ground, or walking on the ground. I don't ever want anybody to put me on a pedestal because, I have my own shortcomings. Believe it or not, I get angry. I do. And but I am quick to anger, I think I have I'll say I have the patience of a saint. I have the patience of a saint. I am slow to anger, but sometimes that actually gets me in trouble because I'm too patient, you know? But that can kind of cause some spiritual pain too, because then God wrestles with me and says, "But don't you know that what they're doing is not right to you?" You know, and I'm saying that phrase because that is something that has stuck with me. Um, from one of our readings recently with was it Joseph? No, it wasn't Joseph. Who was it that said that God wrestled with him? Jacob. It was Jacob, wasn't it? God wrestled with Jacob, and
Jacob. Israel.
yeah,
Yes.
But how many people, I think, has God ever wrestled with you? And how did that feel? How did you handle it or deal with it?
Well, he wrestled me, in the last year. It took some time for some, and then all of the residue to be wiped away by him, not from other people. You're not concerned about other people's feelings and thoughts, emotions and feelings. You're just not. The reason being is because they're doing or have done worse than you have, right? But at the time, you're the topic of discussion. And it's like anything else over time. When that passes, another current event will surface. How God dealt with me was, he took me out of some things. He set me down. He set me apart because I asked him to. Because I knew just playing like nothing was wrong was not going to heal the hurt. It's like a hole that will never heal, even. And
Yeah.
only he can stitch you up properly that there's no scar, there's no bleeding, there's no arterial, there's no capillary, there's no venous blood spurting or flowing. It's you're healed. Well, it took time. But what makes you become healed is repentance and trusting him. Because there's some things behind the scenes that people they wouldn't understand if I told them. There's some things in your home, there's some things in your relationship, there's some things. But certainly, just because something happened to you that people can talk about, or there are things that have happened to you that sin that has not been repentant, you have to repent because it's unrepentant sin. And if you
Right.
walk around with it, I talk about it as a counselor, as a chaplain, a coach, and a mentor, that if you don't repent, you'll never get that residue of stain off of you. You may think you have. It's like when you go take a shower or bath or both. You want to be clean, right? You don't want to walk around smelling like the great outdoors, right?
Right.
You want to look and feel your best. So
Right.
I had to stretch my arms to heaven. I had to get on my knees. I had to cry. I had to, that's not. I had to all of those things to purge myself of what had happened and what had happened before that, what had happened during that it would not happen in the aftermath. So my relationship with the Lord is just like everybody else's, only I recognize exactly what sin is, and I don't ever want to have to endure that again. When you're your own God, you don't recognize what you're doing. You know what you're doing, but you don't recognize and identify what you're doing. You don't acknowledge what you're doing. And the other person or people that you're dealing with, who their own gods too, they're not going to call you on it until they want to make a move away or you've made a move away. And often you, perpetrator, person you don't want to be the perpetrator or the villain in the narrative, you're that person. And God will deal with you. He will deal with you in so many different ways. Even it's remarkable. But he loves you so much that that's what he has to do.
Something that I talked about in my book, Welcome to My People Garden, was, we think that we can fit lots of people. I'm going to use this square, right? This is our garden, right? Figuratively, it is my garden. Well, I can't fit everybody in that people garden. It's only I've only got so much space and I've only got so much energy to tend to people, and sometimes you figure out that some people are not good in our lives. And I have to, like I said, I've talked about it in my book. They're weeds to me, right? Or they're poison ivy that you have to respect and know the character of what that particular person, aka plant, is, and respect that. Hey, poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, leaves of 3, leave them be. Leaves of 5, no friend of mine. They stay outside of the perimeter, right? They stay outside of the perimeter because you don't want to have to deal with them. But you recognize what they are. Okay, maybe I got a cactus in the corner. I love that person, but they're a little sharp. They got some things about them. Aloe's got those little pointy things on it too, but aloe is actually healthy for you. So you kind of have to know, maybe this person gives me some, I want to say vibes, but they kind of poke me, they irritate me a little bit. But maybe sometimes in a good way, that poking can be good for you. But that also then blends into a little bit of emotional pain and some mental pain. It kind of starts reversing the other way because you dealing with toxic people is tough to do. Toxic situations, it's tough to do. You have to respect them inside your people garden and know how to deal with it. And I think in many ways, my experience is when you take inventory of yourself and know who you are, and then you're kind of taking inventory of the people in your people garden, then you're armed with knowing how to deal with certain people in those situations that can mitigate the effects or the potential damage when you go into those areas, deal with those people. You can put on God's armor before you leave the house, and you put it on before you go into that spiritual battle dealing with people that are going to rub you the wrong way. What are your thoughts on that?
Some people, that is their pain to purpose every single that is their pain to purpose every day, even to make your life disruptive, right?
Yeah.
And when you have the tools to shut that down, to diffuse that, it frustrates them to no end. So now they can't do it. So they need to go get a
they need a proxy.
Of people.
They need a proxy to do it.
But when they can't do it, they go get more people. But exactly. And so because I'm learned, because I'm a scholar, because I'm from the street, because I have street cred, because I have all those things, you can't do that to me. But more importantly, the reason you can't do it to me, God won't allow it. This is what people forget, Eva. The enemy has to go to God to deal with all of us. He has to go to God like he did with Job. He has to ask permission to deal with us because we're his.
Yeah.
And if God says yes, he says, do anything you want to him and take his life, right? So the enemy did everything and anything he wanted to me, and my life is still here. The grand prize for the enemy, Eva, is your life.
Sure.
He can't have it unless God says yes. That's not God. That's not who our Father in heaven is, though. Now,
right.
I'll tell everybody who's listening and who's viewing, man, listen, I know where all the bodies are buried. I don't have skeletons in my closet. I have bodies, right? And so because I know that, because I'm in a position I can profess that that's true. When people call me daily about something, they're swearing me to secrecy, more or less, when we're having these discussions. And I will take that information and I'll go to the grave with it because I don't have to tell anybody, right? There's some things that have happened that people have sworn that I had something to do with their outcome. I had nothing to do with it. You had something to do with your outcome, right? So because I know that to be true, I sleep very well. I sleep very well at night, Eva.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to talk about just briefly like my second husband. God bless him. You know, he went through some trials. He was an alcoholic. You know, he had his own demons that he fought, and he did everything he could to steal, kill, and destroy my happiness and joy. You know, nearly left us homeless. Just it was a struggle, and it's sad that people get that desperate. You know, I get it. Desperate people take desperate measures. I feel sorry for those people. I pray for them. I pray for lots of people, not just my friends, but I pray for my enemies too. And it's tough praying for your enemies because they're going to put you through the ringer. But God knows how to bring you out of those situations as well. And I feel like I'm very fortunate with how my kids and I have been able to rise above all of the obstacles that were put in our way with both dads passing away. Both of my ex-husbands had passed away in 2014 and 2015. For me to be where I am and where my kids are, you know, it has been a journey. It's been a really tough journey. And yet I still, have had plenty of things happen health wise too. I get back up again, but it does cause some spiritual pain. And I always just turn to God, deliver me from the situation. I'm going through something now, and I've
It's a
just been
pain.
asking
It's a
God to
pain,
deliver
Eva.
me from this situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a so spiritual pain is described in clinical literature as a pain deep in your soul being that is eternal aching of a disquieted, unsettled self, and a component of total pain, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual suffering. Because even it is not limited to religious people, spiritual
Right.
people. It appears across belief systems, cultures, and life stages. Meaning, no one's immune to this.
For sure. And I think part of society's problem, I'm going to say this, is that their escape because they don't want to admit that there is a God. They they seek solace in alcohol or shopping addiction, gambling. Uh,
Or
I
body
have,
count, or body
right,
count.
sex. Just say it, sex. Right? They resort to sex. Then they also reward to food, right? Just they overindulge with food or all kinds of things or false gods. I think is probably the worst, right? They go seek other outlets that doesn't get them to where, I mean, so they're just circumventing around the center of the target. Maybe I will, maybe I'll eventually find it. But I pray for them. I think it's interesting in society how many people, even some of the stuff I've been watching about moral injury, they want to call it everything clinical except for saying, find God, turn to
But
God.
you don't want to wake up 105 years of age saying, "Oh, Eureka!" So, from a spiritual standpoint, when you look at moral injury and you combine that with psychological first aid, right? And
Mhm.
you connect the three, there's healing there. But
Yeah.
healing can only occur if the person's all in.
Right. It's like being on a diet, or you can't half diet, right? I mean, if you're still sneaking in with the chocolate or the sodas, right? But you're eating your
No,
carrots and
we're gonna have diet today. Yeah.
maybe half God is okay. You know, I so what
You know.
go ahead. Sorry, folks. We have delays going on between the two of us, so we're
It's
just
okay.
trying to
It's all right.
punt
It's
punt
just
the
go
ball.
through it. Yeah, yeah. We got we got two people looking and listening because they're hungry. They're thirsty.
We got
They
three
want to
now.
hear.
We got
Or
three. We're
there may
doing
be some
good.
people. We got three, and we may have some people who just on here. Wait, we may have some people on here just to hear what I have to say.
I don't know. That's
So
okay.
it's all right.
We are getting some thank yous, though.
I will say this much too. Yes, yes, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to have a global forum, a global audience that no matter what you say, think, and feel about me or Eva or us, we're still going to say it.
Well, I think that's the one thing, my friends know. I'm gonna shoot it to you straight. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And sometimes that bluntness hurts. Uh, but it's important to know I don't give responses without first kind of consulting God. Not kind of, I do consult with, God, give me something, right? Because this person's hurting and they need me to share something. So, what do you want me to share? And sometimes that person is blocked off to hearing what God's even saying. It's kind of like they do this. No, 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 no. I don't want to hear what God is saying, but I'll listen to Eva. Okay, well, Eva's going to deliver the message then. It, I've had it happen. God gives me the words to say to help people out.
Either way, you're going to hear it.
Right, right. But if they don't have that relationship with God, sorry guys, I'm kind of like hurting because I was standing all day, so my legs are feeling very, very restless. I apologize for fidgeting.
You need a massage.
Yeah, I do really. I had one last week, but I've got too much to do. But anyway,
you need a massage. Yeah, just to lay there and take it. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I mean, guess what? This week I'm going to reflexology, then the massage. It's happening. I'm going to the nail shop too while I'm at it. So, if you guys didn't know, and I don't make any for it, I am the person you're going to meet, and I don't apologize for it because I've been po in my life, po apostrophe, like po' boy sandwich, and I don't ever want to journey back, or as I love to say, pilgrimage backwards. I enjoy taking care of myself. I enjoy taking care of my home, my missus. I enjoy taking care of people. I enjoy taking care of Eva when I can. I enjoy doing it because I treat people the way I want to be treated.
Well, I don't think you've done anything to take care of me so far.
It's one of these things, Eva, is that when you know where you've been and it didn't feel good or look good or taste good, or you don't want to go back there again.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
So when we talk about pain, when we talk about paying the purpose, there was pain there, but God allowed purpose.
Well, I take it's a lot like, soldiering. You start out as the private and we've got to go through those experiences. God's gonna form our metal. That is a thing, right? He does form us and he shapes us. And I think even with the characters that we've been reading, so far in Genesis, you can see that God works on these people. He gives them chances. He gives us chances. We're where we are today because we have allowed God to shape us. And yes, we've been through some hell. We've been through some shitty times. Yes, I'm going to say that. We've been through some shitty times, but he has shaped us and we have come through and getting to where we are in life right now. And I don't want to go back. Am I afraid to ever lose everything again? No, because I'm like that song, get knocked down and get back up again. You're never gonna hear me shout. I God, I've always come back bigger and better, and I'm thankful for those times. One of the hardest times where I was shook in my career was when I got laid off twice in a year. Once from Lucent and the second time from Avaya. The second time I was pregnant with Carrie, with my daughter. I think I was pregnant with Carrie. Or was that Cody? I was pregnant at the time. That was tough. Having insurance and then not having insurance. I probably had a lawsuit I could have filed, but I didn't know anything about that at the time. But that was tough to have gotten out of the military and then get laid off twice, and then eventually you lose everything. I've been very humbled by those experiences, and I don't ever want to go back to that stuff. And I do everything I can to make sure that I work on second, third, whatever. What are my extra side hustles, because I don't put all of my eggs in one basket and think, I got this job, everything's fine. Have you had those kinds
We
of
can't,
trials too?
because our roles,
Yeah.
yes. So I've had major losses, trauma, moral injury, isolation, meaningless, and spiritual pain emerges because the story I live by no longer holds. It's another narrative. So what it's like in a relationship,
Yeah.
what worked for Sheila and Barbara, Joan and Rachel won't work for the new person, right?
Yeah.
And what worked for John and Bill and Ralph and Kent won't work for the new person. The new person has to be a new person. And so that's how God treats us after the repentance. We're new people. We're the same to everybody else, but we're new people because he's washed us. He's cleansed us. He did that for Darrell. He did that for evil. He did that for people who have done likewise. So I know why spiritual pain matters to me, because it exacerbates the physical pain and the emotional distress. It clusters with depression, anxiety, sleep disturbance, and financial distress in symptom studies. And I've done my own research about Darrell. And the worst thing that could ever happen to me is these things I'm talking about. Because what happens if you don't address it, you're going to have hopelessness, withdrawal, and existential despair. And that's worry, fear, and God is not of God. Worry, fear, and doubt is not of God.
Right.
You
Right.
turn everything over to his will, way, and work, you're cleansed. That's what
I
had to
think
happen to me to sit here in front of you.
no, I was going to say I forget who has said it, but it is something that has stuck with me. God is not the author of confusion. Very simple. If you're in doubt, is it confusing? Is it, any of those other things that Darrell just got through mentioning? If so, then just remember that's not of God. Let it go. There was a lady that
Worry, fear.
yep.
Yep.
I was going to ask
Worry,
you.
fear, and doubt.
I
It's
had
not of
a
God. It's not.
right. There was a lady that I
If you
had
wake up in the
counseled
morning,
with. Sorry, we're having this delay, guys.
go ahead. It's
There
okay. Go
was
ahead. No, please. Go, please.
there was a lady I remember talking with probably 15, maybe close to 20 years ago. I don't even remember how long, but it was something that has stuck with me ever since. And it was tough because she was going through a marital issue with her husband. And I'm pretty sure it sounded like he was abusive, very controlling. She was a beautiful woman. She had moved out for a while because I think she knew that the situation with him was toxic. She debated whether getting back with him or not. But God was dealing with her, and here she was coming to me and asking me you know, for some counsel with her. But I told her to go to God and prayer with what's weighing on her heart. And she says, I've been trying, but I can't hear God. That is something that has stuck with me. I think there are people who maybe I think that they just their soul, or they just have not connected with the Holy Spirit side. I mean, how do you help that person who is going through those kinds of situations? What do you tell them, chaplain? What do you tell them when they say, I don't hear God?
So the very simple things that people do, and I could do the process riding or walking around in my orbit. So I journal daily. I've been keeping a diary over the decades, but I've
Mm-hmm.
always, since I knew what a diary was, I've kept one on some level, right? There are some things in those diaries that if in the wrong hands, uh, but journaling, reflection, guided existential work, I believe it assists people reconstruct the meaning. Because if you ask enough questions to the Lord, certainly, but if you ask enough questions to chaplains and clergy and spiritual counselors who assist individuals in exploring questions about our identity, suffering, forgiveness, and connection, you will find out that spiritual interventions improve mental and physical and spiritual outcomes.
I think
But
I
you
think
have to start with
you have to
prayer.
start.
You have to
Yeah.
start with reading scripture.
And that's what I think I remember telling her that you've got to stop thinking about all of the worldly
Spiritual
junk.
pain, even.
You cut out all of the worldly stuff, because if you don't have if you're not, you know, keeping focused on what God's telling you and talking with him, and you're letting your laundry list, the shopping list, dealing with the kids schedule or homework, or work troubles, or if your mind is and heart is cluttered with all of these other things, then you can't develop that relationship with God. That itself is going to be a barrier to having a fruitful relationship with God, I've gone through this period and I talk about it in my book. And it was Mark he was my second husband, had confronted me that, I had built this huge wall around my heart because I was afraid of being hurt. But I was guarding the wall. I wasn't just guarding my heart. I was guarding the wall that was around my heart that was, big, huge, thick, and it was impenetrable. So he couldn't reach me, but God knew how to reach me. So it was kind of weird that I kept that relationship with God even if I didn't have good relationships with other people. But that's where I think people have also the other ability. They build the dome and they build the wall between them and God and don't let the Holy Spirit come into them while they are doing all of this free people stuff with everybody else, because maybe they just pretend like, well, if God doesn't exist, then I have free will to do whatever the fuck I want. Yes, I said that. But that's how people act. They build the barrier between them and God, and they do whatever they want to in the humanly side of things and think that there's not going to be any consequences. But you've got to knock all of those walls and barriers down to start having a better relationship with God and with other people.
The deeper truth, Eva, of it all is that spiritual pain is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that something sacred within all of us is calling for attention. And it often appears at thresholds such as illness, loss, transition, awakening, or transformation. Now, I can give you the definition of all of that. I can give you I can give you all the information that's applicable to those things. But let me repeat those: illness, loss, transition, awakening, or transformation. As revivalists, we're in the business of all of these, particularly transformation.
Well, sure. But it takes acknowledgement that you've gone through these other things to say, okay, pain's an indicator that there's an issue.
Can't make
So
it up.
I've got to take action to start the healing process. You're frozen on the screen. If you're saying something, we can't hear you, so I'm not sure.
Abuse, misuse, substance use disorder, bed and tell you all about this stuff. But I also can fall out of the bed and tell you about me.
Okay. I think we only heard about half of what you said. So if you want to repeat it, feel free.
I said the deeper truth of it is a spiritual pain. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Spiritual pain is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of something sacred within all of us calling for attention. It often appears at thresholds such as illness, loss, transition, awakening, or transformation. And as revivalists, we are here to assist in that.
Right. Right. So explain the awakening one. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious about loss and illness and stuff. So for the audience, what is your definition of what awakening is?
You are focus on what to do that is right. All the other things that you tried before, they didn't work. So now you're re-energized, you're awake to know what is and what is not. I've been sleeping the switch too in my life, Eva. What is this? What am I doing? Man, you are walking asleep. You're sleepwalking, right?
Well, that's like the
That's
zombies.
an actual clinical modality.
Yeah, it's like the zombies. I think that's where I think a movie like The Matrix was a huge wake up call for a lot of people. Red pill, blue pill. And I've heard the introduction, and I haven't researched what the official meaning is, but black pill is a thing too. So blue pill, black pill, or red pill. I just thought that was interesting that the conversation is now including another pill. I thought you're either awake or you're asleep. You're in the matrix, and that's the blue pill, I think. But they took, the character, I think, was taking the red pill, and that's what woke him up. And just visually seeing things different now.
Oh, placebo.
Well, that was the blue pill, right? The placebo was the blue pill that says, "Oh no, I'm in the matrix. That 50,000 Mr. Smiths is okay," and they're just impervious to walk along with life as perfect, and everything is okay. But when you take the red pill, you're awake and you're like, "Whoa." I see the glitches that are happening in the narrative. I see the trends that, hey, something's not right here. And it's kind of interesting. Even I think there's more of the TV shows that are uh, exposing that thread of falsehood in life and saying, you know what, there's an alternative, might be God. There are more actors who are giving the alternative that you don't have to buy into the blue pill narrative on everything. So what is have you ever had any literature that you've read that has woken you up about things?
When I was going through my drama and trauma not so long ago, um, I read the book of Colossians again. I read the book of Ephesians again. I read First and Second Corinthians and Thessalonians again. Now I could have read anything else. I was led to go read those scriptures again.
Yeah.
Awakening. Now that happened for me. Somebody else may need various other books or scriptures to read, but I read the entire book of Colossians, Ephesians, First and Second Corinthians, and First and Second Thessalonians, and I got through that trial. Even you noted there's something different about you, Darrell, because I accepted it and embraced what it was.
I remember when I got out of the military, and it as being a younger mom, not always having free time, but I did enjoy reading. I would go to half price books, and I found the Left Behind series. And the Left Behind series, for those of you who don't know, was, it's something that's really written about tribulation, all of the stuff that's in Revelations. And, you don't really think about what are the scenario of things that put what are the things in the world that are happening. And you think, wow, this is something that could be happening to us as a population. And I just kept reading. I bought all of the books, and at one time I sold them back, and then I was like, hold on, I may want to reread these again. So I've got like most of that series. And for kids, I even told my brother not too long ago, because his daughters are, asking things and having questions, that even though these are fiction books, they have principally a lot of biblical references to them. Uh, and how do you convey that even to the youth in a way that they're going to understand and believe at their age as well? Because I know that there are a lot of people who read the Bible and think, oh, that's historical stories and that's not relevant to us. But as you and I have been reading on Mondays, the things that these people went through way back when are the very things that are still happening with people today. Nothing's new. Your turn.
We have a few moments left,
Yeah.
and I'd like to just summarize my appearance here today. Evil fortune is friend, and I hear everything out there in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Eva Fulton is my friend. No relation other than friendship. There is nothing. We are striving to get to heaven, as everybody else should be striving to do. She's been there when I was aching. She's been there when I was crying. She does not listen to the white noise or look at the black smoke. She evaluates and leads her. That's why I'm her friend. That's why she's mine. So I encountered some spiritual pain, right? Some of it was self-inflicted, and that's take ownership of what's going on in your life. You can heal faster and better. If you don't, you have and remnants of what occurred. Partial. So there is spiritual pain from it if you choose to. So I'm 62. I know I don't look it, but it's cool. I'm 62 and know that there's something else for me to do. And when this academic journey is over for me, this educational montage is over, but the professional won't be, because for the remainder of my life, I'm committed to doing what I do, because I don't retire from this. Somebody else may get a platinum parachute, but not me. I am committed, dedicated to doing what I do for the masses that enter my presence, that they may not encounter spiritual pain. And if they do, they'll have options to get better, to get well, to get fit.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Darrell. We're going to be back on Monday. The Revivalist Radio Show will be live on Monday. No show next weekend, guys. No show. I'm going to take the weekend off. I'm a reader at Mass tomorrow, and I am going to take a friend of mine camping next weekend. Going to try out the RV and see how worthy it is. I did lots of cleaning up on it today. The following Saturday, Leroy Pinkney Jr. is going to join me on May 23rd. He's got a hell of a story, guys, and he's had his own journey. He's actually there in the DFW area. I found him on LinkedIn and messaged him. So you'll want to pay attention to that show. The following Saturday is Memorial Day weekend. So let's observe Memorial Day. I want, hopefully everybody is going to be able to go out and volunteer. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet, but I'll be doing something. Scott Ressler is going to join us on June 6th. And if you are interested in hearing about the ibogaine world of things, he's been a big advocate. And I have been messaging back and forth with him. He's got a really neat story to hear. And I look forward to hearing what his journey is about. Paula Kemp is going to join me on June 13th. She has the military sexual trauma message that we all need to hear. She's working on some legislative type things as well. Has a book out, and I have a new guest that I have booked for the following Saturday. So guys, I'm booking up almost all the way through the end of June. So I'm really excited. There are some dates that are going to be, we'll be live. Jose and I will be live. I bet I'll be able to get Ann with me too, my friend Ann Maker. We are going to be at the VA Golden Games at the end of June. And then Jose and I will be at up here in Maryland the following Saturday. So, man, July, I'm booking dates already through July. So things are going to be busy the next few months. Follow me. And I know I'm behind schedule closing off, but I hope you all have a fantastic week. Thank you for joining us on the From Pain to Purpose radio show, giving veterans a voice on Military Broadcast Radio. Y'all have a fantastic week.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.